So, our final review of the day is going to be for the film The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. This is a modern retelling of the 1818 novel by Mary Shelley, Frankenstein. And this time it's kind of updated concerning more kind of social issues. You do have, of course, as the title suggests, a black girl in this, and her brother dies of gang violence. After her brother's death, she decides, I'm going to help bring him back to life, in a way, in order to save him, in order to be connected to him again. And this is directed by Bamani J. Story. It's directed by him. You also, and this is a Shudder original, by the way, too. Shudder, which is the horror streaming service there. And I do not have Shudder. I watched this on Prime Video. Where did you guys watch this on Shudder?
I missed this one. I had so much this stuff to do this week. I missed it.
That's fine. Oh, okay. No worries there. But Dusk, where did you see it?
I watched it on Shudder.
Shudder? Okay.
Yeah. I watched some of the horror stuff on Shudder. Sometimes I forget I have it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's how they get you, man. You got all these streaming services. Yeah.
Well, I bounce back and forth between when I subscribe and when I don't.
Oh, okay. I think they're going to do this really creative thing where they like bundle it all together and then they're going to call it cable. That's what I think.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's what I think. But yeah, you might see some kind of familiar faces in this. Chad L. Coleman is in this, who people might know. He was the guy yelling in the train, talking about he was Chad L. Coleman and saying he was on The Walking Dead. He made that appearance.
Tyrese. He's also, I knew him as Coach from Left 4 Dead 2.
Coach for Left 4 Dead 2. He was also in The Wire. There. You also have Denzel Whitaker in this, who people might know. He played the younger version of Forrest Whitaker's character in Black Panther. He was also in The Great Debaters, which was the Denzel Washington movie as well. So he's been in some different stuff.
He was also in Training Day as a child actor.
Oh, very nice. Okay, very, very nice. He plays a big drug kingpin that's in the neighborhood here. So with this movie, yeah, I wasn't too big. I wasn't too big of a fan of it myself. I think it's taking kind of the worst elements from like Spike Lee with a lot of his movies where because like I said, trying to bring in a lot of these social issues in here, updated for more modern times. You have this situation where this is, I think this takes place in, where does this take place in, if you remember correctly? Dusty,
It doesn't really say.
It doesn't say really. But, in obviously a bad neighborhood, you're seeing all this gang violence going on. This girl is exposed to it. She obviously is trying to search for a better life. She's a very intelligent girl. She's in advanced classes here. She's going to have a promising future. It's just, she has to just get out of here first. A lot of elements in the movie just come off as so incredibly heavy-handed, I think. There's a scene where, she's in class and there's a teacher here and then she has a white teacher. Who the teacher is very much like a Karen white teacher kind of going on here. That scene I don't think works very well. That's so on the nose. Then there's a scene where she has a friend of hers. I think Aisha is the friend's name. And Vicaria is the main girl's name. It's played by Leah Delon Hayes. And then there's a scene where the Aisha girl, she's very much, she's into very pro-Black material, what I mean, knowing about her history, knowing about Black historical figures. And there's a scene where she like lectures one of her kids about Malcolm X and about Black history and all this. And that is so just dropped like an anvil on your head, and it's not worked in any real good way. And it's a shame, I just was like, this is just, I know what you're going for here, but you could, I think, worked it in a much better way to kind of include the Frankenstein element and then kind of weave it in with this whole, and then with the more modern times, and then even the ending of it where she gives a whole speech about like the monster and then who is the monster. It's like, okay, that was even so incredibly heavy-handed and dealt with, and I was just like, come on. But Dusk. What did you think about the angry girl and her monster?
I have seen a lot of horror movies in my time, and this sure is one of them.
Uh,
Look, man, I'm gonna be completely honest with this movie. I don't. First of all, I understand from a practical sense. I think this movie is so impressive when you're considering the amount of budget given. This is a relatively new director's approach. This is
it's a feature debut from
feature debut.
from the director Bomani
Bomani.
J. Story.
Exactly. And I think under that context, they did a lot with a little, and I will give them the praise on that. What I can't forgive is the heavy-handed story and the mediocre acting from the main character and a lot of the other cast. There's so many heavy-handed moments. The only really two standout actors in this movie is actually Denzel Whitaker as the drug dealer Kango and her father, who is played by Chad L. Coleman. I think they bring something extra to the characters and role that just really isn't there. And I also don't appreciate a movie that just constantly says, just blatantly, like, Whitey bad, Whitey cops bad, all this bad. Don't you feel is like you should feel bad for them. Malcolm X was right, y'all. And you're like, okay, this feels like a Spike Lee movie with none of the subtlety and nuance that a Spike Lee movie has. Because there's some good moments here that I thought could have worked. There's an element in the movie where people die constantly in this neighborhood, either getting shot by cops or gang violence. And it's hinted, never quite stated, but it's hinted that she's taken some of these bodies and is trying to use that to reconstruct her brother. And I thought that's actually brilliant. Recontextualizing and using that as a subtle measure of how easy and how used to it. And there's even gun violence. And her father, who comes home from work and is exhausted, he sleeps through the gun violence. He doesn't even think about it anymore. Even when a bullet comes right through their window, he's just like, just keep like, he doesn't even, he's just so tired.
It's only Tuesday.
Yeah, it's only Tuesday. Well, it's just one bullet. We'll take care of it. It's fine. Who gives a shit? I'll patch it up. That's great. I think if there was more of that, more subtlety there, and almost the level of sadness and bitterness that there is someone seeing that, well, I'm just going to almost like in a dark comedic way, taking, in this dynamic, why don't I just take these bodies? Because like no one's going to miss them. No one's really looking for us. No one's really taking care of us. That could have had a good commentary on where things are right now in these kind of neighborhoods and for these people. And instead, it only does lip service to them. It only barely scratches the surface of it. And without that extra oomph, those extra details is what has made the Mary Shelley seminal work, The Modern Prometheus, so long. It's like so long living, so influential. It is because it had those extra details. It's because it had that extra weight to it. And without that, it just becomes a run-of-the-mill horror movie where monster bad. Why it bad? Because people call it monster. And aren't we the real monsters in the end?
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to save my friend at the end for no reason. And it makes no sense, but whatever.
Yeah. And like I said, it's a first time director. And Bomani J. Story. Could he take this and build off of it and become better? I think he can, like Dust said. I mean, it's some good production stuff. I mean, with the budget on this, I think you do well with it. And that's nice. You said you didn't really like the main girl in here. I thought she was decent enough.
She's decent, but she's just smart, angry girl who they just hand her intelligence. Like, I don't see her work for it. She just is smart, and then she builds device. There's no moment of like the moment of euphoria where she comes up with the eureka moment, where she comes up and figures out, oh, this is what I need to do. That could have had some meat on its bones. That's actually a really kind of dark moment where she finally gets I'm going to use electricity. That's a really dark moment, but she doesn't ever, like, nothing really comes from that. I just think a lot of this is very basic lip service. I think with the material she's just fine with, but there's just not there for her. And she comes off as just being an asshole.
Jeez.
Talking to this drug dealer dude just with such attitude, where it's like, all right,
Yeah.
like how are you just taking this?
Um, yeah, I kind of see some of your elements there, with it. So yeah, I mean, so like I said, you could have done a really good thing with this and updating it. And we just saw a movie just recently that did this and did the whole social message, which was sci-fi theme because they cloned Tyrone. We just saw that, and I love that
Mhm.
they cloned Tyrone, and then did a mixture of like black exploitation, science fiction, horror, you know, type of stuff, and with also the social message in there. I don't think it was as heavy-handed there, and I think it worked very well and weaved into the story very nicely. And it's just not the case with that. And like Dust mentioned, there's some good stuff in it, good scenes, like the Chad L. Coleman scene where he's laying in just on the couch and he's too tired to get up, and like it's just such commonplace that this happens that you're just not even phased by it, you know, anymore. And that goes to show you the, you know, the type of environment that that they're living in, and just the
Mhm.
stuff that would be normally trauma inducing for a lot of people just become numb to it all. But yeah, just the scenes I mentioned of like the constant kind of preaching of it by the Aisha character, and
Yeah,
it's just not in this way. And then the scene like at the school um could have been just done better if maybe you had maybe somebody who was, I don't know, maybe more of an experienced writer. I don't know, is his career too much in writing? I don't know if he has much of an extensive background there. But I yeah, I just would have liked to see some of that touched up a lot better. Yeah, so that's it. But I mean, to give some kind of positive, like you mentioned, Chad L. Coleman, I think he's decent in there
hmm
as the father, and he's got some good moments. He's a veteran actor. Denzel Whitaker is a veteran actor, pretty much, and I think he is good in some of his scenes.
yeah,
Um, the some of the stuff with the monsters, some of that the effects they do, and when they actually do some kind of killings in here actually look pretty good. I think they look fine.
yeah,
Um, yeah, but I think the really super heavy-handed social message in here really drags the movie down.
Mhm.
And I was kind of like, yeah, that's disappointing. So I would kind of give it a very low stream it, very very low
Mhm.
stream it. What about you, Dusk?
mm, debating. I'm kind of hovering on a low stream it and the and like a forget it.
Skip it.
Yeah, like a skip it. I'm kind of bordering on it.
Yeah.
There's so many great smaller horror movies you can see that have similar budgets to this and did so much more with it. But that's not to discredit the work that went into it and everybody in it. And I think just for that alone, for first time, and for honestly Denzel Whitaker and Mr. Cole, I think that alone, if you're fans of their work, or at least they're in a substantial bit of the movie, I think the effects are solid enough that they become passable. And I think on occasion, there's some things that work here, but that ultimately feel disappointing when it doesn't go as subtle as it should be. And I think if you're kind of into these kind of movies, maybe like if you have the mindset of it being a bit more like black exploitation or a bit more of this kind of heavy-handed subject, you can get a lot more out of this than I did, or I think really you will.
Mm.
I'll give it a low rental just on
Low
that
stream.
merit because of it. A low rental, lowest rental I can give it.
Mm.
Because especially on a platform with Shudder, there's so many other great smaller movies. They're even like half the time. Another small movie that's like a bottleneck. Yeah, another small good one is the Possum that came out a couple of years ago. And Possum is great. It's just two actors in that one. It's a fairly bottleneck movie as well. There's a lot you can do with the limited resources, and I admire the effort that they went into this. I just wish the writing was stronger and more
Yeah.
subtle. The performances were fine, but yeah, honestly, Denzel Whitaker and Mr. Cole, they really push up where the writing is lacking.
Yeah. So low rental from Dusk, and yeah, low, basically a low stream it, same as me. Low stream it there. Yeah.
Yeah, let's stream it.